In this video, I want to talk about exactly my estimates for Lucid going forward and their next earnings report, as well as a couple of years ahead, and exactly what I think their numbers will look like in the next 2, 3, and maybe even 4 years. So these are really rough numbers. Let's just go ahead and dive into it and see what we can get. So in Q4 of 2021, they reported 125 deliveries. I know that this was not our favorite number to hear, but it was reality. But by the earnings call by February 28th, they had delivered 300. So my guess is but in Q1 of 2022, like this includes the 300, I think they delivered around 450. This should be reported on May 28th. That's my best estimate. Now 450. The reason I say 450 is because from the pictures that I've seen, it does not appear that they have delivered all of the Dream Editions yet. Now, there's a couple of different options that could have happened. One, they are not delivering any more Grand Touring until the Dream Edition are done because the Grand Touring are having the same supply constraints as the Dream Edition, or the Dream Editions are the only vehicles having supply constraints and they can go ahead with the Grand Tourings. So that's why my guess is between 400 and 600, but if I had to pick a number, 400. But that's my highest. That I'd be absolutely shocked if they delivered more than 600 in Q1, and then around the low end of Q1, I could see 400 just because of everything that Peter Rawlinson has told us. Now let's take this number and let's say that they double their deliveries. So they literally double them, and in Q2 they report 900 deliveries. And in Q3, they double it again. In Q3, they do 1,800 deliveries. And in Q4, they do 3,200 deliveries. That's doubling production every single quarter, which is a pretty tall task for a company that's ramping up their production currently. They're launching products, and they're in the middle of the biggest supply crisis this world has probably ever seen when it comes to automotive supply issues. So saying that they double every quarter is really good. So if you add these up, this comes out to 6,350 cars. So I hope Lucid does not revise down. I hope they can hit that 12 to 14,000 deliveries for what they had projected, what they revised down to. But if they don't, if they don't revise down, I think it's possible. Like if they double production every quarter, it means that they'll hit around 6,000 deliveries, which we'll talk about the scenarios for what happens if they deliver 6,000 deliveries here in just a second. So their estimates for all of 2022 are 12 to 14,000 vehicles delivered. And then in 2023, there was not actually clarification given if they will be able to hit this 50,000 number. So here's where things get a little shady, and not shady, but here's where things get a little unclear. I have a note right here, and I'll talk about what this note means. I read the Q4 transcript again, and they asked Peter Rawlinson twice what is going on with a 50,000 delivery target in 2023, and I believe Sherry House responded and said the factory will have the capability to, and we will give guidance in Q4. She said Q4, so I don't know if we're going to get guidance for 2023 until Q4 of 2022, which hopefully we can kind of if we're seeing these numbers, I don't think they're going to jump to 15,000 deliveries in a quarter from 3,200. I could be wrong, but I would not be shocked if they revise down from that 50,000 delivery mark. And then for Q4, for 2024, at one point, I think they were saying 100,000 deliveries. That's anybody's guess at this point. Hopefully, by this year, maybe this number is correct. Maybe they only hit 900 in Q2, but maybe they triple or quadruple production in Q3 and Q4 once the supply chain crisis gets figured out. Because Peter Rawlinson said after Q2, hopefully things should be better. So maybe Q2, maybe this, and then maybe Q3 is 3,200 and Q4 is 6,400. That would be a lot better. Let's actually run those numbers really quick. If they do 3,200 in Q3 and then they do 6,400 in Q4, that gives Lucid a total of 10,000 cars. So it's very possible that Q3 and Q4 look a lot different than what they have been projecting. So maybe than what I'm projecting. These are just my estimates, not financial advice. I would not trade off any of this. I do hold shares. It's a very small percentage of my portfolio, but I am holding Lucid shares currently. Okay, now here's my goal for the reservations. In Q3 of 2021, they had 17,000 reservations. In Q4 of 2020, in Q4 of 2021, they had 25,000 reservations. And in Q1 of 2022, I want them to have a 25% increase. I'm going to be honest, I kind of pulled this number out of my butt. I don't really have anything to base it off of, and I don't believe that they have any estimates for how many reservations that they will have. But if they continue to have a 25% increase from Q4, that's 31,250 vehicles, the estimate. So that is what I believe Lucid, that's what I want Lucid to do. Like I said, I kind of pulled that number out of my butt. Let me know what you guys think in terms of reservations, what will happen. All right, let's talk about the 3 notes that I have here. With the launch of the Grand Touring Performance, will that hinder Pure production? Because Peter Rawlinson promised that in Q4 that they will be producing the Lucid Air Pure, which is their cheapest model until now. Hopefully they will launch cheaper models in the future. But with the launch of the Grand Touring Pro, were they factoring that in when they said they would get the Air Pure in production by Q4? Because if not, they may have to push the Air Pure until 2023, which I know a lot of people would be bummed about. But honestly, from a business standpoint, like you want to go to your higher margin products, which the Grand Touring Performance may take priority over the Air Pure. That's just speculation. That's just something that I was thinking about today. Bear's Workshop did capture drone footage of more Dream Edition. I didn't think there were Dream Edition in the actual Lucid factory parking lot, but Bear's Workshop counted out a handful of Dream Editions that were still in the Lucid factory parking lot, as well as the video that I talked about yesterday with a ton of Dream Editions just sitting in a parking lot what appeared to be Florida. I could be wrong. And people are saying they're just waiting for parts, which I understand, but I don't think that they will hit the Dream Edition deliveries in Q1. Hopefully they get them all done by Q2. But we're into Q2, so hopefully we can get those delivered now. And then we talked about the 2023 guidance. I don't know if we're going to be able to, they said the factory will be able to, like, mathematically pump out 50,000 vehicles in 2023, but they can't give any guidance until they until they get further into the quarters. And she said Q4. I don't know if that was a typo in the transcript or if she literally means they won't give any guidance for 2023 until Q4 of 2022, which would be interesting. So let's talk about what happens if Lucid delivers 6,000 vehicles and they happen to all be a variant of the Grand Touring. So I know the Grand Touring, I think it's 179,000, and then you have the Grand Touring Performance, like 179,000. The Grand Touring is 139,000, and then you have the lower end Grand Touring. So let's just say the average selling price is 139,000. I think that'll be one of Lucid's strongest features, is the fact that their average selling price per vehicle is really high. This may be a little bit lofty, but let's run with the numbers. So that means their number of vehicles that were sold, let's say they only hit this target that I have right here of 6,000. Would it be the end of the world? No, they're ramping. We understand that these companies have to ramp. But let's say that this company gets all their supply shortages figured out and they can ramp. They go 450, 900, and then they go 3,200, 6,400, and they hit those 12 to 14,000 cars. Let's back up a little bit. Let's say with the 6,000 cars for a second. That's $834 million in revenue. I gave them an expense margin of 90%. They're only making a 10% profit on each one, which in the last one, they had a negative margin they had a pretty negative margin when it came to their sales expenses to their total revenue per sales. As you can see, it's negative 1,717%. So I gave them that they're making 10% on each car. That may be really lofty, and I may be completely wrong in that. I'm getting better the more I look at these I'm trying to get better the more I look at these financial statements, but they're not going to be perfect. So I said they're making 10% on each car. Their R&D, I extrapolated it out 4 quarters. From their first quarter, it was 163,000. From their SG&A, it was 196,000. And I took out the warrant liabilities. So you guys are gonna have to let me know if these warrant liabilities, if this is the only time we're gonna see this, because that's one of the biggest questions I had. So I extrapolated those two, and I got those numbers, and their total expenses will come out to 2.1 billion, and that leaves a net income of negative 1.3 billion, and then EPS of about negative 82 cents a share, which we do expect them to continue to spend money, to spend quite a bit of money, and it's possible they may have to raise money by the end of 2023, I believe. So stay tuned for that. Let's say that they deliver 13,000 cars. So they give the guidance between 12 and 14,000. I picked the middle at 13,000. I'm still giving them the lofty average selling price of 139,000. That gives them revenue of 1.8 billion. I gave them an 80% expense margin. So they're making 20%. Again, that may be kind of lofty, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt just to kind of play with these numbers so that everybody can get an idea. That gives, kept the same numbers, R&D, SG&A. I kept the same numbers throughout this entire spreadsheet just because I have no idea what they're going to be spending. I feel like that was a pretty fair number because Tesla this last quarter spent $865 million in one quarter. So I feel like these aren't terrible for Lucid to spend over the year. These could be low, these could be high, I don't know. But this is just a reference point. I extrapolated their last quarter for time multiplied it by 4. So very possible they spend more than this. So they will have a net income of negative $1.081 billion, and that leaves that leaves the EPS at negative 65 cents. And then let's keep going. So now let's go to 50,000 cars. Let's say that they say 2023 we are on the up and up, and we are a full scale. This factory is pumping out cars like no tomorrow. All the supply chains are fixed and everything. So then they start working on the Pure, which are the lower priced cars. I'm giving them an average revenue per vehicle of $85,000, which may be lofty. It actually may be a little low for Lucid, because I believe the lowest Air Pure. Let's actually look really quick. Lucid Motors. Let's see what the lowest Pure is. So if you go to reserve. Whoops. Yes, you get 3 years of charging. So it looks like the lowest is $77,000. So let's just say 85,000 people are still reserving the Air Grand Touring Pro Performance. Let's say $85,000. They sell 50,000 vehicles. That gives them a revenue of $4.25 billion. And I gave them a 25% profit margin, which is actually really high. But considering the higher end of these vehicles, it's definitely possible they hit these higher margins. So this is where Lucid's starting to get closer to break even. Again, they may be having to spend more on R&D and SG&A, but I just extrapolated their last quarter because we don't have a full year of production for Lucid to kind of comp it against. So this is just my best estimate. It probably will be higher, especially once they get to ramping up the Gravity Pro, Project Gravity, sorry. Then they're down $379 million, which is a lot better from where they had been, and that gives them a negative EPS of 22 cents a share. And let's go to what happens if they sell 100,000 cars. This may be 2024, maybe 2025, and maybe 2026. This, I bumped up the average selling price because hopefully by this time when they're selling 100,000 cars, they have everything in full swing. Project Gravity is ramping and everything is looking great, or it's beginning to ramp, but all of their products are flying off the shelves and their demand isn't an issue. Which we'll actually have to see these reservations. Sorry, you can't see. You'll have to start seeing these reservations tick up if we're wanting to hit 100,000 vehicles within a couple of years, because that's only 31% reservations compared to what we need to be for selling 100,000 vehicles. Okay, so revenue per vehicle 90,000, number of vehicles 100,000. That's a $9 billion total revenue. So you can see how much money Lucid can make by selling a higher end product. I gave them a 70% margin. Tesla today just hit a 30% profit margin, which was absolutely insane, and people did not think they were going to be able to do it, but Elon Musk did it. So I'm saying that their R&D, their SG&A is still staying really low. This may be too generous, the 70% expense margin, which gives Lucid a net income of $1.2 billion and gives them the EPS of around 76 cents a share. Now, if they're trading for a PE ratio of around $75, this, instead of saying 2026, we can say 100,000 vehicle delivery, 100,000 cars, cars price for Lucid. You guys know what I mean now. So if they sell 100,000 cars, the price for Lucid could be around $57 a share. That's if they don't have any other shares that are added. So this could be way off. I tried my best to get it as close as possible. I really wanted to. I spent quite a bit of time making sure that this was as good as I could possibly get it. So I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Let me know when you think they're going to hit 100,000 cars. Answer the questions I asked before. Is this is the warrant liability going to last for only 1 quarter, or are we going to continue to see that roll over? I don't know, but it actually gave me a little bit of hope. If this does only last 1 quarter, hopefully, it actually gave me a little bit of hope, because if this only does last 1 quarter, this was one of their biggest expenses. So hopefully that can continue to get shed off. And they probably will be spending a lot more on R&D and their operating expenses as a whole. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys appreciate it. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I don't know what you guys think about these 3. If the Grand Touring Performance the Grand Touring Performance, if that'll hinder the Air Pure production. If you think Dream Editions will be delivered in Q1 or they'll be done in Q2. And what you think about their 2023 guidance. Do you think they're going to hit 50,000 vehicles? Are they going to revise down to 25,000 vehicles? What do you guys think? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of a different video. But like always, I appreciate your support. If you enjoy my perspective and like Lucid content on a daily basis, consider subscribing. Like always, I appreciate you, and thanks for watching. Happy investing.